the redemption process. Number one, he brings trials, tribulations, and plagues, curses for breaking his law, to bring us to the point that we will call out his name. Number one. Second, he responds by calling us out of our ways, Egypt, and out into the desert where he can teach us his ways. And number three, we submit to his ways and then we go into the land. This is the prophetic picture and the process of how Yahweh cleanses his people. First, we break his law. Second, he brings trials and tribulations. You better consider it pure joy, because if you didn't, you would never be able to have the opportunity to respond by repentance, which draws you to the point where you could submit to his ways and be clean and be counted worthy to enter into the land. That should bring a whole new meaning to James chapter 1, my friends. James gets it. If you don't have a trial, you don't have a tribulation, you have no opportunity to realize that you are in sin and recognize what the Father's trying to teach you. So you better be happy the next time something happens to you, because it's a cleansing process. He disciplines those he loves. What is the most popular prophetic verse in all of the Scriptures? What is the most popular prophetic chapter in all of the Scriptures? Somebody yelled out, you prophecy people, everybody knows this. It's in Daniel. What chapter? Daniel chapter 9 is the most prophetic chapter in all of the Scriptures. So walking through Daniel chapter 9, I just pointed out a few verses I want to show you. Everybody stops at verse 27. No question about it. Everybody wants to stop on 27 and about the Antichrist and all that good stuff. Let's find out in context what this entire chapter is all about. Verse 4 says this. And I prayed to Yahweh, my Elohim, and confessed and said, Alas, O Lord, the great and awesome God, who keeps his covenant and loving kindness for all those who love him and keep his commandments. We have sinned, we have broken your law. We've committed iniquity, acted wickedly, and rebelled, even turning aside from your commandments and your ordinances. The most prophetic chapter in the entire Bible. And it's all about the breaking of his commandments. It's all about the breaking of his Torah. Let's continue. Verse 11, indeed, all Israel has transgressed thy law and have turned aside. And now you understand, all Israel's all 12 tribes. Not obeying your voice. So the curse has been poured out upon us, along with the oath which is written in the law of Moses, the servant of God. For we have sinned against him. We're still in Daniel 9. Now we can move to Daniel 9:27, that you understand the context when it says this. He will confirm a covenant with many for 1 7. In the middle of the 7, he will put an end to sacrifice and offering. And on a wing of the temple, he will set up an abomination that causes desolation until the end that is decreed is poured upon him. I put the version on here on purpose. Because can you put that back up on the screen for just a second? The nearly inspired version, the New International Version, is very close, but very far off. Because that's not what the Hebrew says. Would you be interested to know that because this verse has been read by the most popular version out there, which is the NIV in our generation, we have completely botched what happens at the end of time? Watch what actually the right translation says. Now, what was the entire context of Daniel chapter 9? The keeping of the covenant and the breaking of the covenant. When he said the word covenant, what was he referring to? The Torah. No question about it. He makes it abundantly clear. The problem is we don't want to start at Daniel chapter 9, verse 1 and actually read the context to discover what the word covenant means. Because we read it in the NIV and everybody told us that it's a 7-year peace treaty. Can anybody tell me where it says 7-year peace treaty? I'm not seeing the whole 7-year peace treaty, because watch what it says in Hebrew. Daniel chapter 9, verse 27, we're going to read it again in the King James Version. It says, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he, if you read verse 26 and verse 25, the he is referring to Yeshua the Messiah. He will confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblations to cease. And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. When a friend of mine at our fellowship, he's actually running the camera this evening, or one of the nights he's been running the camera, he showed me this. It blew my mind. I began to tap into this a little more and dig a little bit deeper, and recognizing that we have two massive different versions here. One says that the Antichrist alludes to the Antichrist sets up the desecration in the temple, and one is alluding to because of the sin, he is going to allow the sacrifices to cease. And because of the overspreading of abominations, he shall make the temple desolate. Now, you tell me, based on context, what makes more sense? Because when the Messiah came, about 3.5 years after he was baptized, the sacrificial system was done according to the Father. But let's not believe me. Let's read it in Hebrew. The word covenant is gabar. Strong's 01396 for those that are keeping notes. And the word gabar does not mean treaty at all. Or confirm, in Hebrew. It means to strengthen. It does not mean make a covenant. It means to strengthen, to prevail, to make strong. Zechariah 10:12 uses the exact same word that we have been translating make a treaty, and it says, I will strengthen them in the Lord. It doesn't say I will make something new. I will strengthen. And so we have the context of Daniel chapter 9 that is all about the covenant of Yahweh. It's all about the Torah. It's all about the instructions in the Torah of Yahweh and how we've broken it. And then he finally gets to the end of time, our time, and he says the Messiah is going to strengthen his Torah. How many realize that when the Messiah was baptized, he began to strengthen the Torah? Isn't that his entire ministry was strengthening the Torah? That's all he did for 3 years. That's all he did for the term of his ministry was strengthen his Father's words. But halfway through that, he was killed. The Messiah sacrificed himself, and the sacrificial system from the perspective of Yahweh was done away with, and that scarlet thread never turned white, according to the rabbis, from that moment on. We're missing the other half of that week, and that's where Daniel chapter 11 picks up. Verse 28, the king of the north will return to his own country with great wealth, but his heart will be set against the holy covenant. You see this? The whole end days is about the holy covenant. The Antichrist, why on earth would the Antichrist be against something that's done away with? That doesn't even make sense. The Antichrist is against the holy covenant. Ships of the western coastlands will oppose him, and he will lose heart. Then he will turn back and vent his fury against the holy covenant. He will return and show favor to those who forsake the holy covenant. Time out. Stop. Think about what I just read. The Antichrist shows favor to those who break the Torah. Ouch. Are you sure, ladies and gentlemen, that the Torah is done away with? The Antichrist is siding with those who break the Torah.